I worked out in the morning and I went to work for 8 hours, came home and I was peeling shrimp and I couldn't peel the shrimp. My hands would not work. Like there was no fine motor skills in my hands. And then by the next day, I was so weak on my left side, I could barely walk. It took it till February to get a diagnosis. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune neuropathy that's called chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. So basically, my immune system is eating the myelin sheaths of my nerves in my arms and legs. My neurologist I just left, bless his heart, he tells me when I told him I was going to go carnivore, he says, "You're a nurse and you know better than that. I do not support this."
Hello, everyone. Adam from Carnivore Today, and today we have a very special guest, Renee Shove. So, Renee, for those that don't know who you are, can you kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me. My name is Renee. And I've been a nurse for 21 years. I am 47 years old and I just medically retired from my job um, in Kona, Hawaii at the hospital there because of my medical issues. I have two autoimmune diseases, been a carnivore for 7 months, and I'm healing my autoimmune diseases with carnivore. And I'm very excited to be able to share my story with everyone.
Awesome. I love that. So, what autoimmune conditions do you actually have?
In 2010, I was diagnosed with idiopathic gastroparesis. Means my stomach doesn't move. So when you eat food, normally your stomach kind of goes like this and it moves the food down. Mine doesn't do that. Um, and then in 2019, I woke up on November 13th. I'll never forget the day. I worked out in the morning and I went to work for 8 hours, came home and I was peeling shrimp and I couldn't peel the shrimp. My hands would not work. Like there was no fine motor skills in my hands. And then by the next day, I was so weak on my left side, I could barely walk. Um,
Wow.
and it took until I was just actually looking at my labs. It took until February. So that was November 13th. It took until February to get a diagnosis. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune neuropathy that's called chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. So basically, my immune system is eating the myelin sheaths of my nerves in my arms and legs.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
that's my two wonderful autoimmune diseases.
Okay. So, once you were diagnosed with those, what was the treatment that they prescribed for you?
Okay, so the gastroparesis was my gastroenterologist called. And I was in the car, we were driving, and I'll never forget. And he says, "So your gastric emptying test came back." And at this point, I'd been in the hospital already. Like I had already had to be in the hospital because I was severely dehydrated. I was very malnutrition. I couldn't keep anything down. I had been throwing up for a year. And my primary care doctor had been telling me I just was depressed because I had gone through a divorce. And I'm like, "No, I'm not depressed. Like, I can't keep food down." So I finally found a doctor who would listen after I got hospitalized. And so the gastroenterologist calls, says, "Your gastric emptying test came back. You have gastroparesis." We don't know a whole lot about idiopathic gastroparesis. So I'm going to tell you to eat white food, ice cream, white flour, anything that's white because it goes through your stomach really fast and you don't have to, it doesn't take a whole lot to break it down. Stay away from whole grains, stay away from meat, stay away from all the other stuff. So that's basically what I was told. And um, so what do you do? You do what they tell you to do. There were I've been a nurse since the early 2000s, and the first thing I did was look for literature, like anything I could find on gastroparesis, and there was nothing. One book had ever been written. And it was by a nutritionist who had written it because she got idiopathic gastroparesis and wanted to figure out what to do. But that was it. So I stumbled along for quite a while, not really knowing what to do. They finally found a medication in Canada that's been black boxed in America, so you can't get it in America. And they were able to get compassionate release of it, so I was able to get that medication. I was getting ready to take it, and my husband had had really, really good results with hypnotherapy. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try something else before I try this med. That's black box in America, which means America doesn't want it. So do I really want to take it? Um, so I tried the hypnotherapy and it actually worked. I don't, it, who knows what it really does? but it made me think that my stomach was working maybe, and I was able to start eating. I remember the first night after my first hypnotherapy session, I ate a New York strip and I hadn't had steak in forever. And it was, I mean, it wasn't perfect. And for the next, that was in 2010. So for the next 14 years up until this year, nothing's been perfect, but I've been able to learn how to deal with it. So in 2019, when I got sick, I was lucky I had a neurology appointment already scheduled. So um, I didn't have to wait very long because I had it for my migraines, which I've had since I was little. Um, so I only had to wait like 3 days for my neurology appointment. And when I saw the neurologist, he says, "Well, something's really wrong, but I don't know what it is." So that started months of testing. I had everything poked and prodded and X-rayed and MRI'd and went through 3 specialists. Finally, found a my second neurologist drew labs and found the antibodies that were causing the problem. Unfortunately, he found at the same time COVID hit America.
Mm.
So I went from living a normal, trying to get to work 40 hours a week with this illness to trying to work 80 hours a week with this illness because I was on the incident command team at our hospital for COVID response. And it was insane. I ended up doing high dose IVIG, and IVIG is immunoglobulin. Um, every bottle is $10,000. I needed 2 bottles a day for 5 days a week.
Oh my goodness.
You can do the math. Thank goodness I had really, really good Kaiser. I had Kaiser. I had really good insurance. My hospital that I worked for provided great insurance. So I paid just minimal copays for that, but I did that for 5 days. On Wednesday of that week, when I got up in the morning, I could actually walk again. Like, it wasn't perfect, but I didn't need my husband to help me. And it so it was working. I made it through that week, and then it lasted like 2 weeks. I felt good. Every day that week while I was getting IVIG, they give you all kinds of pre-medications, Benadryl and stuff to counteract any reaction that your body's gonna have against the medication. So I tried to have meetings all week on my phone for work while I was getting my treatment, and, um, a couple weeks later, it just kind of dwindled. What I had felt went away, and I was starting to have issues again. So my doctor wanted to do another round of it because sometimes it takes several rounds. And I couldn't take 5 days off of work again. There was no way. I mean, who was gonna at that point, I was the director of patient care services at our hospital. I needed to be there. So I did 1 day a week for 5 weeks instead. And that actually bought me. I mean, I'm by this point, I'm already maxed out on gabapentin. I can't go any higher. I was taking nortriptyline to help the gabapentin. I mean, I a lot of meds on board already. But the second round of IVIG held me over for about a year and a half. It wasn't a beautiful year and a half, but I was able to manage. I was able to function. I went to work every day, and my pain sometimes was uncontrollable. And then our union that I worked for, the union we belonged to got medical marijuana passed where we could use it if we had a license. So I started using marijuana to see if that would help the pain when I got off work. I used to tell my husband, I think I'm just so high that I don't care I have pain, but I don't think it touches the pain.
Wow.
Nothing touched the pain. It was like 9 out of 10. So my neurologist said, let's do another round of IVIG. So I did another 5-day course. On Wednesday of that week, I developed atypical meningitis from the treatment. So basically mimics all of the symptoms of meningitis, the headache that you can't lift your head, the neck pain that you can't move your neck. Went into the ER, and mind you, I work at this hospital, so I do everything I can to prevent going to the hospital, because that's they work for me, right?
Mhm.
It's a weird thing. So anyway, I went to the ER. They gave me a bunch of medications and loaded me on steroids. Sent me home. The next morning, my neurologist said, "Let's continue the treatment. We'll just load you with steroids every day." So I finished out that week of treatment. After that week was over, he informed me that I had failed the treatment because I can't, what the meningitis, there's no way I could do it again. So we went to once a month treatments. So I did that for a while. It wasn't touching my pain. I was weak. I couldn't barely walk by now. And I don't think I've started using my cane yet, but I'm getting there. Um, then he decided to put me on rituximab. And rituximab is a monoclonal antibody, which is a immunosuppressant biotherapy treatment that was made for lymphoma. It would go in to kill the B cells. So and they're using it a lot now in autoimmune diseases.
Mhm.
So I started rituximab. My first treatment had an allergic reaction like 15 minutes into it, which is normal. I mean, a lot of people do it. I used to be an oncology nurse, so I've given it a million times. I never thought I was going to be getting it though. When he told me he wanted to give it to me, he was like, "Let's schedule it." And I said, "Can I think about it for a little while?" And he was like, "What's there to think about?" And I said, "Well, the nurse in me wants to think about this. Like, I'm not ready to just say, yeah, kill my immune system."
Mhm.
Um, but all the research I did, that was it. I didn't know what else to do. So I started rituximab. Um, I got it every 5 to 6 months, depending on how long it held me over. And when I say held me over, like it never touched my pain. My pain was still like an 8, 9 out of 10 almost all the time. I mean, I lay in bed and cry at night because my feet were on fire. Neuropathy, um, just to make sure everybody knows who doesn't have it, it's not numbness. It is burning, tingling, on fire, achy. I mean, there's not one word that doesn't describe neuropathy, and to not be able to do anything, I haven't started an IV in 5 years. All the things I normally did. My husband had to wash my hair a lot. I actually cut my hair into a buzz cut, and I wore a buzz cut for a long time because I couldn't do my hair, because I can't get my hands up there. I'm growing it back, so that's good. So the rituximab I think I had 3 rounds of it, and after my 3rd round, my son graduated from boot camp. This was this spring, and I went to his graduation in San Antonio, and I came home with COVID, which was unfortunately the 2nd time this year I'd had COVID, and I
Wow,
had almost died from it the year before.
goodness.
So, when you have an immune system, and I wore a mask, I did everything I could try to do to prevent it, but it just happened. So, I had COVID, and then I got the flu, and then I got pneumonia from the flu. I mean, this year, like, this is what led me up to the desperation of, I've gotta find something different. I think I answered your question plus a whole bunch, sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. I love it. So you had mentioned that your all these treatments, did you feel like they were healing you or was it just managing?
I don't even know that it was managing. I mean, honestly, sometimes it does worse than it does better, and I wouldn't say that because at least I was able to keep up my strength. But when in February of this year, I made the decision to retire. I went to my boss and I sat down in her office and I was in tears and I said, "I can barely make it to work 2 days a week. I'm out of sick leave." At this point, she's letting me work remote at home. But I'm the director of patient care. That means that I should be at work, not at home. And so I told her, I said, "I don't see any other way I could do this." By now I'm using a cane because my left-sided weakness was so bad that I would fall. Like I would stand up and not know where my left foot was. Um,
Goodness.
and it was really humbling to have to start using a cane at work. I really held off on that. I was already using it at home and I was already using it going out, but going to work was the like it was hard. It was very humbling. Um so I applied for retirement in February and they said, "Well, it could take up to 6 months to a year." So at that point I still have to work. Continue to work, but my husband and I made the decision. Our youngest graduated high school last spring. So he's a freshman at the University of Hawaii right now. We made the decision to move to the mainland. Rituximab was it. If I failed rituximab, I'd have to do clinical trials because at that point there was nothing else. Since then, they've approved another immunosuppressant drug, but they hadn't yet. So we decided it was time to leave Hawaii as well. So this is all going
Why
to
did you decide to leave Hawaii? What was that decision?
there's no like I had tapped out the medical care that I could receive there. There's no place to get clinical trials in Hawaii. There's no like it. I was it. There was nowhere else I could go. And we give the best medical care we can give for what we have. But there even I lived on the Big Island, so even going to Oahu, there was nothing that they could provide me because they don't do that kind of stuff in Hawaii. When I was an oncology nurse, we sent people to MD Anderson and to UCLA and to UCSF all the time because we don't have clinical trials. We don't even, if no stem cell transplant, like you can't get any of that stuff. So we decided it was time we had to come back to the mainland. I'd been there 18 years. My husband had been there 20 years. It was a hard decision for us to leave our home. Um, so all this is going on. Kid is graduating, my last one, the other one's graduating. Um, and we decided to move and I retire. Like all of that's happening. It's a lot to process. And when I came home from my son's basic training and I had COVID, my husband says he had COVID too, but he went back to work because he wasn't sick. And I was like sick. So he says, "Well, you're laying at home doing nothing." He said, look at the carnivore diet. And he had been dropping it. Maybe I should say that since I got gastroparesis, I went on every single diet in the world to try to figure out what would work. I mean, we have been Mediterranean and we have done pescatarian and we have done the whole 30. I mean, we went through everything. And at the time I got sick, we were actually vegan on
Wow.
our way back to pescatarian. Hence, I was peeling shrimp. My husband, so bless his heart, did every diet with me. My kids did every diet with us, but he kept pushing the carnivore. He was like, I am not supposed to be a herbivore. He's like, my eyes are in front of my head and I have teeth. Like I should be eating meat. He's always told me that. I am not the prey. So I was like, all right, you know what? You've been bugging me for a long time. Both you and Gabe, who is my oldest son, I'll go ahead and I'll look at it. Like I'm not gonna make any promises, but I'll watch a video.
Why were you
Huh.
so reluctant to try it?
Well, because the nurse eats a salad. I had at least one salad a day for lunch. I grew up in the 80s. I was born in the late 70s, grew up in the 80s where it was no fat. So never had any fat. We ate margarine. I never had real butter. You stay away from all the fat. The sugar's okay. We drank tons of soda, but stay away from the fat. So that's the mindset that I grew up in. So you're telling me that you want me to eat just fat and meat when that's completely I mean, yeah, I didn't get a whole lot of nutrition in school when I was in nursing school, but I'll tell you what, I know that eating meat that's not the way that it goes,
Right.
right? It's just not.
Yeah.
So I turn on YouTube and I put in carnivore and Carrie Mann's video comes up first. And he was doing his 9-month check-in. And I was amazed. I mean, I don't know if you've ever actually watched that video, but he's running around his homestead. He's like, his energy is crazy. And I told him, I said, "You're crazy, Carrie," but in a really good way because that's what drew me to it. So I'm like, all right, well, that's one. That's not enough. So then I find Michaela Peterson and I watched her TED talk about her healing and what she went through with her rheumatoid arthritis. And now I'm like, okay, let's keep going. And I found Dr. Barry and it just kept going. And I text my husband halfway through the day and I was like, hey, if you don't want to be a carnivore, you better tell me to stop because I'm going down this rabbit hole and I probably won't come back. And I mean, that's all it did. I've always been skeptical of studies because I think that they're very skewed to what they want them to be. And I don't think that we get the truth of all the studies. And I know we don't see all the studies because they bury ones that they don't want us to see. So I don't need to see studies. What I needed to see was people who were saying, hey, this is what I've healed from. And that's what it took was watching other people. So I did what most people do. And I said, well, let's finish all the food in the house because I don't want to throw all this away. And so about a week and a half into that, let's eat all the food in the house. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just donate all the food in the house. Like, if this is going to work, we need to try it.
Mhm.
And so I went lion immediately. Like I gave up everything and it was just beef, water, and salt for 60 days. Because I was convinced that if Michaela did it and that's how she did it, that's what the autoimmune disease needed was nothing but that. And Within 2 weeks, my pain was under control. I had 5-year, well, I just hit my 5th year anniversary this past week, so I was 4 a little over 4 years of uncontrolled pain and meds on board, tons of medication, and nothing worked, and a couple weeks into this, I'm laying in bed, I tell my husband, I'm like, "You know what? My feet are on fire." And he was like, "Okay." And you know how when you spend in the daytime, you don't realize how much pain you're in until you lay down and you actually take inventory of where your body is? I realized that I didn't have very much pain, and it just got better, and so I told my husband, I said, "If this is the only thing I get, just pain relief, I don't ever wanna change this. I'll eat a ribeye every single day for the rest of my life if that's what it takes to keep this pain under control." And, um, I stayed lying for 60 days. My depression went away. I had my first suicide, issues when I was 14. I, again, in my early 20s, went through that again. And I've had on and off major depression since I was a teenager. Um, and anxiety, I've taken Xanax forever for it. And I realized that I felt good. Like I think the biggest thing was when we got on an airplane to come to Arizona to look at houses, and I'm scared to death of flying. Like 2 milligrams of Xanax would barely get me on a plane. And that so we never traveled because of that. And I got on the plane without any medication, and I didn't have a panic attack, and I wasn't scared, and I have been on many plane rides since then without any medication.
That's
And
awesome.
and so those things are starting to happen, and I've already applied for my retirement, and I'm not gonna back off on my retirement because I'm not convinced I'm healing myself. I'm controlling symptoms at this point. That's how I feel. And my retirement got approved in July. I'm still using a cane, but and not as much. Like at home, I'm not using it anymore. Mostly I got to the point where I used the cane when I had to go long distances or I was around people who don't care about where you're at, like in Costco or the airport, the jostled around. And so that was where I was using my cane. And I wasn't using it most other places. And it just got better and better. And I have beautiful skin now. I haven't had a zit. Okay, I have like 2 zit in the last 8 months.
Right?
But I look at pictures of myself and I used to always have acne. I mean, it's just like crazy things that you don't even think about. So, did I don't even know what your question was, but there's that.
I love it. Yeah. I'm the same. I had adult acne, I'm 48 now, I think. And had it basically my whole life. And it's embarrassing, as an adult male. And you start eating ribeyes every single day, and all of a sudden your skin clears up. What the heck?
Right. Um, but it's everything. I still have so I have only had 1 migraine since I went carnivore. Which is really good. I'm still getting Botox. Well, so I'm weaning off my gabapentin right now, which is actually really difficult because I'm having a lot of pain when I go down on a dose. Like at the week, I'm doing it very slowly, but there is some pain going on there. Um, and that's normal. I mean, it's just coming off of a medication I've been on for 5 years. But my migraines, I'm still getting Botox for just because I have the hemifacial spasm. I'm sure you've noticed, like I would twitch in my face. Um, all of that happened when I was in the military, that whole thing. So I get Botox for it because it affects my swallow and stuff like that. I think it's getting better. I have faith that it will, nerves are the last thing to heal.
Mhm.
Um, I I think that it was Dr. Chafee that said that it would take a couple of years for me to actually get back to normal, like, because nerves just don't heal overnight, and it takes um, a lot of fat. So it's a
Mhm.
full-time job eating fat.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, with my brain damage, it took roughly about 5 to 6 months for me to notice that it had healed completely. But I think I was kind of an outlier that it healed quicker than it would have with most people.
Yeah, I've gotten that in comments on some of the other YouTube interviews I've done, like, "Yeah, there's no way your pain went away in 2 weeks," because mine's still here. But I believe that everybody's different. I didn't have a huge amount of oxalate dumping. I mean, I had a little bit. I had, the crystals coming out of my eyes and stuff like that, but I never really went through like a whole lot of that. And other people have massive. And I ate a salad every single day for lunch for 20 years.
Right.
So, everybody gets different levels of healing. And I think that that's the hardest thing is that some people can't just do 60 days of lion. Look at Michaela. She still is just lion. And she may have to be for the rest of her life. I drink coffee again. I eat cheese. I drink a little bit of cream in my coffee and I eat some bacon sometimes. Other than that, it's all beef.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, except I can't do the dairy at all. The dairy is what causes the acne for me. Like if I have a little bit, yeah, I'll break out, and then it's there for like 3 months. It takes like 3 months to clear up.
Isn't it crazy how we're all so different? Like every human being can eat the same diet. We're all going to be just a little bit different about what we can and can't do. That's the biggest things. People are like, well, how do you know that your body doesn't like it? And I'm like, oh, believe me, when you don't have anything in your body except for beef, water, and salt, and you add something, like chicken. I used to eat chicken all the time. And now, nope, it gives me a rash and I get itchy when I eat chicken. So I know that that's not something I want to eat.
Right. So how long have you been carnivore now total?
8 months next week.
Okay.
On the 20th will be 8 months.
And do you
And
see yourself going back to white foods?
I'm not going back to anything. We just bought half a cow for the first time. We're very excited about that. It's not here yet, but it will be. Um, I don't no, I won't. Like food is my medicine and meat is my medicine. I love those hashtags. Um, because it's true. I don't look at food like entertainment anymore, and I don't look at it like it's something that we need to make a big fuss over. I eat a ribeye every day. I eat a bunch of butter with my ribeye every day, and if I get hungry in the daytime, I eat pemmican. But for the most part, I'm just OMAD. And by the way, I need to explain pemmican really quick because that is the biggest question that I get every single time I have an interview. Because people are like, "Well, what's pemmican?" We take and we render down the beef fat off of our ribeye. We buy the primal cut of ribeyes, and so we take but with our new cow that we just got, we're gonna get suet, so we'll be able to do it with that too, but you render it down until you have the liquid, and then we dehydrate beef. Um, right now I'm doing just ground beef, which works out just fine. Dehydrate it until it's like a crispy little jerky chip thing, and then we grind it in our so all of these things that we own that we don't use anymore, the Vitamix, which I don't use for anything
Right.
anymore.
Right.
We grind up our beef and then we mix it with the tallow and let it set up and then it creates pemmican. So it's just a combination of beef flour and fat. I make mine a lot higher fat concentrate than usually it's a 1-to-1 ratio. I do 2-to-1 just so I can get that more fat in it. And
Nice.
that's all I eat in the daytime. And then I have a steak at night. And if we get bored, which we really never do, we switch over and have hamburger one night. But
Nice.
that's it.
I love it. Just so everybody knows what she's referring to, pemmican, she just described how she makes it. But if you've ever heard of the Carnivore Bar, that's the same exact thing. They prepare it and they're individually packaged.
And there's a company in the UK who's doing them too now. It's called the Pemmican Project. They're not available in the US yet.
Okay.
I watch him making it though. Um, but pemmican it's first off, it's a really great thing to do with your fat. And when you render down the fat, it leaves all these little crunchy like bites that we then put in the oven and we bake, and they make the best snacks in the whole world. But you have to be fat adapted because believe me, all you're eating is fat.
Right. So you had mentioned that your husband was the one that was kind of bugging you to start the carnivore diet. Where did he hear about it from? And is he doing the carnivore diet?
Um, my husband is a prepper who likes to go down lots of rabbit holes all the time. So I don't know where he got it from. I'm sure a YouTube video. And my husband is doing exactly what I'm doing. He was a little bit he takes a little bit more liberty. He didn't do the lion when we first started. He kind of did more of he just went straight carnivore. So he was 212 pounds, type 2 diabetes. I did all this to him, by the way, when I made him vegan and all the other diets. He was on metformin. He was depressed, using a CPAP. Let's see if I hit it all yet. Um, and he is now 164 pounds.
Wow.
And he is off his metformin. He is not using his CPAP. He does not snore anymore and does not have apnea anymore. His depression is completely gone. And I don't even know where he is half the time because he's running around the 10 acres we bought here in Arizona. And that was going from sitting on the couch. We both worked full time at the hospital, but when we were off, we had like indents on our couch where we just sat. And that's not the way it is anymore. So
That's awesome. So he's running around making his own carry video then.
well, he should be. But it's amazing. I love, I look at him and I don't even see the person. We're two totally new people. People who knew it, people who know us, they just can't believe it when they see us in pictures now because we're not the same people.
That's awesome. So what has eating this way done for your relationship?
It's been really great because I don't have to cook anymore.
Nice.
He does all the cooking, I do all the cleaning. It works out really well. I think that things are a lot better because both of our depression is gone. When you take depression out of the equation, it changes everything completely. I am so grateful for what Carnivore has done for us and for our, we're not perfect and I don't want anybody to think that. I still have pain. I still have my spasm. I still have weakness and it's going to take me years to grow my strength back. But this morning I was outside and I was staining shelves and I've not been able to do repetition movements in 5 years. And I was out there staining the shelves thinking, oh my gosh, like this is amazing that I'm out here doing this. And I only stopped because I ran out of stain. I wouldn't have stopped. I didn't stop because I needed to stop. Stop because I ran out of stain. And we live out in the middle of nowhere. So it's a trek to go get stain. But we do things like that and we look at each other, we're like, oh my gosh, we wouldn't have been doing this 8 months ago. It's crazy. I don't even know that there's words to explain where we're at right now. I know because I know your story and
oh yeah, I know for sure.
sometimes it makes you speechless that where you're at. Yeah, it changes everything.
I have 100% confidence that you're going to end up healing and potentially healing all the way. It's just going to take time.
Right.
Or you'll heal in your own time. And like JP said, the nerves take a long time to heal, but they will heal. So
yeah, there's too many people out there who have reversed autoimmune diseases. And I decided since I had to retire and I'm done with acute hospital. Like I don't want to go back to the hospital. I think that we've lost focus of healing people and I don't want to go back to that. So I actually started school in September and I'm going to school to become a certified nurse coach in functional and holistic medicine. And my goal is going to be to help people through that transition into keto and carnivore. That first couple of months, it's difficult. And if I didn't have the support system that I had found, I don't know that I would have made it through those first couple of months because your body is completely changing. So I would want to be there to support people. I want to give hope to people with autoimmune diseases and let them know that, hey, you can get better. And don't give up. That's my biggest thing is I'm 8 months into this and I'm not 100%. I may be like 50 or 60%, but I'm nowhere near 100% of where I was back in 2019. I was a weightlifter back in 2019. Like I pick up like a 5-pound weight now and I'm like, woohoo, And that's okay because I'm rehabbing, I'm fixing myself. But I think people give up too fast because they're not seeing the changes they want right away. And well, this person did it that fast, so I should do it that fast. And you're right. Our bodies, we've all done different damage to our bodies over the years. We've all put different things in our bodies. And I don't even put chemicals on my body anymore. I don't wear makeup. I only use tallow products on my skin. I don't use antiperspirant. Like, I don't wear perfume anymore. I don't put any chemicals, and we don't use any chemicals to clean our house. So I have reduced all my environmental stuff as well. So I think that people need to remember that it's not just what you put in your body, but it's what you put on your body too.
That's great advice. Yeah, that's a great reminder as well.
Because it
Um,
all causes inflammation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if someone's watching this and they have an autoimmune condition, what would be your recommendation to them, like first steps?
Get rid of all of the processed food in your house and all the sugar. Um, and I got very lucky. I have a doctor. He's a regular doctor, but he actually is a carnivore himself.
Wow.
And I really like him. He's been kicked off YouTube and he had to go to the other platform, but I really like him. And so I'm really lucky to have that support. And we were talking, and he was like, when you graduate, I'll send all my patients to you that want to go, that want to do this healing. But my true opinion is I don't think that we all have to go. Like, some people have that really hard thing going straight carnivore. So it's okay. Go high fat keto. Get rid of 99% of things causing the inflammation. If you want to keep that 1%, this is what I'm doing with my dad. Love you, dad. I may make him watch everything. Um, but I told him, keep the couple of vegetables that you think you need to eat, but get rid of the sugar and get rid of the ultra processed food and get rid of the seed oils because those are the things that are killing us. And if you get rid of those, you're 90% there. Now, if somebody's really serious, this is where the why comes in. How strong is your why? That's why I ask people when they are like, well, I just don't know. And I'm like, well, how strong is your why? If you don't have a strong why, you're not going to stick to something. This isn't a diet. Carnivore, I hate it when people call it carnivore diet because it's not a diet. This is our life. This is the way we live our life. It's a lifestyle, not a diet. Diet means that you're counting calories and that I don't count calories. I just eat until I'm full and that's it. So my advice, at least get rid of the processed food and the sugar. That's that's a really huge step right there.
Yeah, that's great advice. So do you have any aspirations on YouTube or
Yeah.
starting a channel?
I posted my first short yesterday on YouTube.
Okay, nice.
Um,
Good out.
it's a start. I right now with school, you would think since I don't have a job, that school would be easy, but I'm taking both functional medicine and nurse coaching this semester, and it's a lot of work. So I don't have time to like start a full editing YouTube and everything. But I thought, you know what? I'll start with shorts and just see where I go with that. I don't even know that I like to talk to the camera by myself. Um,
That's awesome.
but what I am doing is I am not saying no to any interviews because I want to get that hope out there. And you never know what one person you're going to catch with something that with an interview. And I've actually been lucky. I met somebody through one of my interviews. They commented, I think it was my interview with Carrie. They commented and they actually healed themselves from CIDP. And they've been 3 years carnivore, and she lives in Vietnam, and we don't speak the same language, but, social media is so great at translating it for us, and so we started talking, and, she said it took 3 full years to get healed completely where she was back to pre-CIDP. So I have hope. So seeing her comment gives me hope. So then my hope can be passed on to somebody else when they see it. It's the ripple effect.
Absolutely. So what's your future plans for that channel? Like, are you going to start doing interviews or cooking show,
Uh
or what are you going to do?
I don't know. I don't know that I have aspirations to do that, but at the same time, how does my story get out there if I don't do it? I try to spread my story as much as I can. I belong to Healing Humanity Life, which I absolutely love. I belong to the Proper Human Diet with Dr. Barry. I belong to the Steak and Butter King with Bella. And is that it right now? I think that I have 3. And so just keeping up with those and keeping up with school is lots. But I try to be at every meeting that I can be at. I try to get, I try to help as much as I can. I don't spend as much time on Healing Humanity as I need to because I'm a moderator on there and I need to spend more time there. So YouTube is like so far off in the back burner right now.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I
hard
hear
enough to keep my Instagram up.
you. Yeah, YouTube's been a little bit on the back burner for me too because of creating Healing Humanity Life and the documentary and everything else that's going on. So it's taken a little bit of a back burner. But stories like yours, whenever I hear them, it's like we have to shout this from the rooftops.
Absolutely. And I mean, Healing Humanity, complete huge supporter of this documentary of what you guys are doing. Um, it was a documentary, Forks Over Knives, that got me to be a vegan. And so, I mean, all it takes is, you watch a documentary and you see, I know I'm a member. I get to see all the all the back stuff and the stories that you guys have and the people that you have. And, people like Bill Knott. And um, I look at these people and I'm like, yep, how can you dispute this? How can anybody watch this and dispute what it's doing? I'm very excited about the future. Without getting all political, but very excited about the future. I think that this Make America Healthy Again, I think the fact that we have amazing doctors that are carnivore doctors that have been nominated to be on these committees. And anybody who hasn't should go vote. Dr. Barry's on there, Dr. Chafee's on there. They're being nominated to be on these committees, and that's what we need. We need it out there. We need people to realize we've been taught the wrong thing. And I'm excited. I hope a food revolution comes.
Right? Yeah, I'm excited, but I'm also a little cautious because whenever there's more government control in any way, shape, or form, it doesn't always go as you would hope, right?
Right. And that, I guess that would be the thing I would really worry about is losing Dr. Barry and Dr. Chafee alone have devoted, and Dr. Baker, all these doctors have devoted so much time and energy into getting the word out, and how many hundreds of thousands of people have healed because of those doctors. I mean, I've had the opportunity to personally thank Dr. Barry, and I have not yet made connection with Dr. Chafee to be able to personally thank him, but I would really love to because they don't. I I know that they know they're healing people, but I don't. I owe them everything. I've been Carrie. Every time I talk to Carrie about it, I get all emotional because if it wasn't for his video, I probably would have stopped at that point. I don't. Who knows who I could have come across, but it was Carrie and his enthusiasm and the fact that he healed everything. If you can turn all of those things around, then how can you dispute that? So yeah, you're right. I don't want to. I would hate for them to not be where they're at right now too.
Well, Renee, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, and I want to give you the opportunity to share anything if you have any last thoughts.
For those of you who are doing carnivore, keep it up. But for those of you who are thinking about it or wanting to give up, don't. Like Adam and I've talked about, your body, we're all different. Just because something happened for me in 2 weeks or a month or 2 months doesn't mean that it's going to take your body longer. So I don't want people to give up hope. I'm on Instagram at eating meat to walk, and I will gladly, like, I answer all my messages. I have a bunch of people that were already talking, and you know, I, I don't want people to give up. It it just takes time, and sometimes people go carnivore, but they don't give up everything, and they don't go lion, and sometimes our bodies need that reset. So, I just don't want people to give up hope. It's there, and if I can start healing this disease, then the world is everybody's oyster, right? Look at you, brain damage. I mean, how do you dispute that, Adam?
Right. Well, my wife would probably argue, but yeah, I agree with you 100%. You know, some people do have to go all the way to lion just to eliminate absolutely everything. And I had to do that and then go even a step further, which is eliminate the salt. So I couldn't even do the salt. So it was just beef and
Right.
water.
And
So
and I think that some people give up too fast. That's the hard part. Don't give up because it'll, things will get better and better and better. And I am begging, like my family, that's been the hardest thing is that I don't have that. Like, I hear about families that everybody goes carnivore and the whole family, the mom and the dad and everybody. And I'm really trying to convince my parents. My mom is in hospice for scleroderma right now. And
mm,
she says that her disease is too far advanced and what good would it do? But, I'm trying to get that pain under control. And if she could just get her pain under control, which medication doesn't do anything for anymore, it would be worth it.
mhm.
But her soda addiction, sugar addiction, that it's a hard thing to fight. I think that I've got her about 90% convinced that she should do it. But every week that she's supposed to start, she finds something else. Yeah. Oh, I don't feel good this week, or oh, we didn't, and so I hope that she does it because I'm living
Turn
proof.
that around. I've interviewed folks with scleroderma, and it's completely 100% reversed in them. So
Right. Do you hear that, mom? 100% reversed.
yeah,
Um,
this lady had scleroderma so bad that the doctor said she would be dead in 5 years, just because everything has, her tissue had set in so
yeah.
much that she would die. And yeah, she went carnivore, and it's completely healed, completely gone.
And that's amazing. How do you dispute that? I have 2 cousins with MS, sister and brother, they both have MS. And I hope Serena, you're watching. His wife, I think, watches my videos. I carnivore, what do you have to lose? 30 or 60 days? I mean, I would give it 90 days at the minimum. But I mean, start baby steps. I'm going to commit to this for 30 days. For 30 days, I'm going to eat ribeyes. I mean, how how awful is that? My dad, when he when he comes down to visit, he's like, "Oh, it's so hard to be here. All you eat is steak." And he's joking because he doesn't get red meat at home.
To qualify that, also, this individual was filmed for the documentary. So everyone that's in the film has been background checked. All the physicians have been, all their credentials have been triple checked essentially. So to make sure that they are who they say they are, and that we have no bad apples in the film itself. And we've actually verified medical records. So this individual has a doctor. He practices at a very prominent university, and he has verified that she had this diagnosis, and now it's gone. So
So then what does that doctor think? Like, I would love to sit down with that doctor and say, okay, now that you've had a patient that's completely turned around a fatal diagnosis, because scleroderma, there's no like, you have scleroderma, you're going to live for next 20 years. I mean, my mom has had it for 15 years and she's in the top like 98 percentile of survival because you don't live that long. You're right. It's a 5-year diagnosis. So what is that? How can that doctor dispute something like this at that point?
well, interestingly enough, they are for this way of eating.
That's awesome.
So it wasn't a surprise to him.
Okay. He was expecting it. See, and
Right. That's the exception.
my neurologist, I just met my new neurologist. I've seen him twice now. And he questions when I see him, he's like, "Are you sure you don't want to schedule your rituximab?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sure I don't want to schedule it." And then, when I asked him to start weaning me off my gabapentin, and he questioned it, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm sure." I said, "Right now, I am treating this with carnivore." And he didn't look at me like I grew a second head, but he didn't question. He just kind of, it went in one ear and out the other, and he pretended like he never heard it. And that's much better than somebody arguing with me because my neurologist I just left, bless his heart, he tells me when I told him I was going to go carnivore, he says, "You're a nurse and you know better than that. I do not support this."
Oh, wow.
So,
That's not very supportive.
no,
No.
but you know what? It's okay. I don't, and that's why I don't want to go back to acute medicine. Um, we're just throwing pills at people, and are the pills ever healing somebody? And I've never been healed by any of the meds I've been given.
I think it was Dr. Berry that said, we don't have a medication deficiency, right? And that's
No,
sadly, that's what society believes is, in order to get healthy, you have to have some sort of a medication to correct it.
right, and the unfortunate thing is that you have to have that medication, but then you have to have another medication to correct the side effects of that medication, and then you have to have another one to correct the side effects of both of those, and pretty soon you have a pill box that's completely full, and, I used to when we admitted patients, you'd ask them, like, "So what are all the meds you're on?" And they'll just hand you their pill box, they say, "I don't know, I just take these every day." And they don't question. And that's the worst part is that we've gotten to the point where we just blindly trust our doctors that they know what they're doing. And I'm not bashing doctors because there's some amazing doctors out there. Um, but they're taught to give medication. I mean, if they want to learn functional medicine, which is actually healing people, they have to go search for it. That's not taught in medical school. That's a whole separate education. So they're taught to give medication,
And
not to
they do
heal.
well. They do
They
well
do
at what
very well.
they
But I guess I got to the point where I didn't want any more medication thrown at me. I stopped giving me medication. I went on in the spring right before I went carnivore. I went on duloxetine, I think again, which is an antidepressant. It's an SSRI. It's a nasty drug. I went on it to try to help the gabapentin work better, and had awful side effects from it, but it worked. So now you have to weigh, do I take the side effects because the pain is a little bit better, or do I get rid of the medication and still deal with the pain? And I had to make that decision. I got rid of the medication because I just couldn't deal with the side effects that I got from it. That's the sad thing is that people are having to do that. I don't get any side effects from beef, like none.
right? Well, positive ones.
Right. I mean, I have great, great, great positive ones, but I don't get any side effects. I get a full belly,
Right?
but how can you I have an immune system again. Since I went on carnivore, I have not been sick one time, and I didn't have an immune system. My last dose of rituximab was in the spring, so I just started my immune system growing back. Obviously, something happened with carnivore because I haven't been sick. So, how I can't complain.
That's awesome. Renee, it's been a pleasure to have you on. And your
Yeah.
story is so inspirational. It's magical. And I believe that you are going to heal from this in time. And I definitely want to have you back on the channel so that we can get an update in 6 months or so and check in with everybody. So I appreciate you and I thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to talking with you soon.
Me too. Thank you so much, Adam.